This is Empire Sports Alliance, Unfiltered. No fluff, no filters, just the real side of sports. We're talking athletes, coaches, agents, doctors, executives, the people behind the scenes who actually move the needle. From building careers to surviving the grind to winning off the field. This is where real conversations collide.
Welcome to another episode of Empire Sports Alliance Unfiltered. I'm Ronnie, I'm the wealth guy. Got my colleague here, Eric.
Hey everyone, Eric, sports chiropractic physio concierge service for you.
All right. And today we got Dustin Swedelson, on-air talent with VSiN in Las Vegas. Welcome to the show, Dustin.
Hey, I'm pumped to be here. I'd rather just ask you guys questions because everyone can need help with finances. And Eric, my guilty pleasure is chiropractor videos on social media. I mean, I'm obsessed with it. People getting work done that I never knew you could feel pain in these spots. So I'm all about it.
Have you seen the one of some guy like adjusting an old lady and throwing her through the wall and all that?
Yes, the AI.
Yeah. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, if a patient pisses you off, but I mean...
See, if a patient pisses me off with me, instead of wealth management, I'm just sending them straight to the sports book, and that's where Dustin comes in, dude. But yeah, no, all kidding aside, sports betting, sports talk radio, Dustin, what's your journey? How do you get into that?
So I went the route of, and feel free to interrupt at any point during this.
Sure.
I went the route of
Can you get rid of the Yankee hat? Or
no, it's Mets. It's Mets. It's worse. It's self-loathing. It's self-loathing.
Actually, I got a Mets jersey here. I treated the team for 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. We got to get
Seems
into
like
that.
they need some more treatment, dude.
Yeah, they need, I don't know if a doctor can fix what their issues are right now. So my journey, I mean, as a kid, I knew I wanted to do this pretty young. I was into acting. I was into sports. I was pretty torn. My friends who played sports made fun of me for acting. I was in like Macbeth in high school. And then my friends who were in acting, they didn't really like me that much. They didn't really accept me because I played sports and I was kind of like in that world. So I saw this as like an avenue where I can combine both, where I can do sports, where I can do entertainment. And I knew around like 16, 17 years old, this is what I wanted to do. So I went to school for it. I was really relentless in just finding opportunities, whether it was school radio, editor of the school newspaper, covering teams, pitching to radio stations to put me on the air. And they're like, we have no money. And I said, I don't care. I don't need money. I need experience. So that worked into like a job on ESPN radio in the small town that I worked on Fridays doing a football show, which parlayed that into when one of the people who worked at that radio station conglomerate went on their own. I showed up at his door and I was like, I'm ready to work. And he hired me to do a bunch of sports stuff. I became a full-time employee. I covered a Division II football team or Division II college program, football, basketball, baseball, softball, everything. And high school sports as well. And I did that for a few years in the South, in South Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia.
Where do you get the information from for D2 schools and those type of sports?
Okay, here's something I'm going to admit. I once wrote a preview article about a team that they were going to face in the opening week of the season. And I said, you know what? This sophomore running back averaged like 7 yards per carry, something like that. He was a beast, assuming he's going to be on the roster the next year. Because the information wasn't readily available, he was murdered in the offseason.
Oh, shit. Okay.
He got caught robbing someone's house.
That's not good. That's not a good proposition in Georgia.
I wrote an article previewing he was going to get a ton of handoffs week one, and unfortunately, RIP, he had passed.
Did you have any backlash for that?
No, luckily it was like our paper wasn't on the internet yet. Okay. It was still only like printed out. So luckily nothing happened there, but you could only go off what was out there. And there, at that time, it was like 2005, 2006. There really wasn't a lot of information available about these players and these teams until they showed up on the field. Wow. So from there, I started in a really small town. I needed stability. I moved to Atlanta where my family was. I got a bunch of side gigs, interning. I bought airtime on a radio station. I was writing, covering high school sports and Division III college basketball, patching it together. Eventually went to SiriusXM as a producer And I worked on a bunch of channels there. I should note, I also had a couple cool opportunities when I was doing the small town thing. CBS Sports Network put me on as a college football sideline reporter for a game, like their first or second year of existence. And then Comcast Sports Southeast had me do commentary from the sidelines on another game for them. So I kind of lucked into a couple of those things to give me cool TV experience. But from
Wait,
there,
where'd you go to college and what was your major?
I went to Valdosta State. My major was broadcast journalism.
Yeah.
And it was a really good program for a smaller town, smaller school. I mean, 12,000 students, I guess, isn't that small these days, but we had a really good program where freshman, sophomore, you were the talent. You were on the air. You were behind the desk. Whereas if you go to a bigger school like a Syracuse, a Georgia, something like that, you're going to have to wait a few years before you, like, seniors traditionally are the ones that get the microphones. So I benefit from just getting a ton of reps and a ton of experience down in Valdosta. I eventually, as I mentioned, Atlanta, then into SiriusXM. And at SiriusXM, I bounced around to a bunch of different networks there, ultimately ending up on Mad Dog Sports Radio for 5 years. I moved to LA where I was a producer. I was behind the scenes. I did a couple minor on-air things, but nothing really major. And I worked with a host who was like,
what do they have to envision in terms of being a producer? So you're behind the camera,
yeah,
but you come up with the show topics in terms of what is going to be discussed, etc.
Booking the guests, planning out the show, planning in advance, social media, the stuff pre-show, the show post-show, compiling information, setting up segments, working with your board operator, your associate producer, screening phone calls, managing what your show does with what the other shows on not just your channel, but other channels on the platform are doing. So you're all copacetic and there's not a lot of overlap and you're not confusing people in terms of like PR reaching out and we're all on the same page. So it's mostly just show planning though, and then working with your host to make sure they're in the best position to succeed.
Who was your host?
So I've had several hosts, ones that I loved, that have been really good to me. When I think about when I was on college sports radio, worked with Chris Childer, worked with Jack Root, who were awesome to me. But Mark Packer, probably the biggest influence. I was his producer for about a year, but we did some really great things in that year. And I learned a lot from him in terms of just who you're looking for guests specifically, how to have one main topic for a show and give it legs for 3 hours. He was a master of that. I went from there to NASCAR. I worked with Dave Moody mostly, and Dave Moody is like the voice of NASCAR on the radio.
Yep.
Everyone waits all day for his opinions on things. And I learned from him just kind of like make people tune in to find out what you have to say. Be big with your opinions, believe in your opinions, but make it so that you're the authority for people whenever something happens in the world. And then the host that really invested the most in me was the guy I worked with on Mad Dog Sports Radio, and I still work with him to a degree today, is Patrick Maher. And I worked with him for about 5-6 years on Mad Dog. We worked another like 2 or 3 years together on VSiN together. And he gave me an open mic day one. He's like, say whatever you want. We'll do something with it. He coached me up behind the scenes. He really like would tell me like, look, you're doing this. I know you think you're doing it because of X, Y, and Z. I want you to calm down. I want you to start doing this. Why don't you think about this? This is your strengths. And we'd have these little like just talks here and there about on-air stuff. And he really groomed me to be ready to be a host, which a lot of hosts aren't willing to do. I don't know if
because
they see it as
competition, somebody that can take their gig away, or
threat, or not necessarily take their gig away, but him putting me on the air is a risk, right? Because now they go, hold on, we pay you to be a solo host. Now you have a co-host. I was never the co-host. I just chimed in here and there and tried to make my impact felt. But it can be something that, negotiations are used against you. He was willing to take that risk, and I owe a lot to him for doing that. So from there, I got some on-air stuff, but I was still a producer when I went to VSiN. He went to VSiN, and then I followed him a little bit after, and I worked on a different show as a producer. And then the story of how I became a host on VSiN is I was producing a East Coast morning show, 7 a.m. Eastern, but I'm on the West Coast. That's 4 a.m. Eastern, which means I wake up at midnight, 12:30, 1, depending on the day to go in and do my show. And there were fill-in hosts for a week because my main guys were on vacation. One of the hosts texted 30 minutes before the show started, sorry guys, I'm not going to make it in. I've been throwing up all morning. Well, here's the problem. I don't have the authority to find a co-host. All the bosses that have the authority to do that they're asleep. It's 3:30 in the morning. The other host that was sitting there was like, look, I can do a show solo, but 3 hours at 4 in the morning, I could really use someone. I said, look, I'll put on a blazer. I will sit next to you. You ask me any question, I will have a take. You can push back on it. I have no problem with that. I'll have bets we'll hit later. We will figure this out. And while I'm doing that, I'm also texting every guest I know who's awake, and we're just trying to put as many guests on the show to help her out as well. And I sat there. I probably did half the show. And it went well. And the bosses came to me after, and they were like, you saved the day, but more importantly, do you want to do this again? I was like, I'd love to. This is what I want to do. So they started letting me fill in on the weekends when people were out. Then they gave me a weekend show with some other people, and it just kind of grew from there.
Nice.
How do you, so
That
I
was the
mean, you
long
have
way.
to be on top of stuff constantly, right? So you started, before we start talking about betting, you're talking about sports talk radio, right? So basically you cover any sport really, or, is it just what's top of mind right there that weekend? Is it golf? Is it NASCAR? Is it basketball? Whatnot? How does that work? How do you prepare? I mean, there's a lot of information. That
Well,
you need to store.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially when it's betting, because it's not the same as traditional sports talk, where the top story of the day is the top story of the day, and it can carry you, a bunch of different ways. We hit the top stories of the day, but we need the betting implications.
So
On
it was
top of
always
that,
attached to betting. Sorry, not to interrupt, Dustin, but you always attach
Yeah.
it to betting. That was always part of it.
yeah, well, we have to now. In the past,
Yeah.
not so much, but now we have to attach it to betting, prediction markets, whatever it may be. On top of that, we also have baseball games that we have to preview and handicap because there's bets to be placed. There's golf events, as you mentioned, right? Soon we're going to have NBA Summer League. And then for a lot of us, we aren't soccer people, but we love the World Cup. You have to do the work. You have to do the research. You have to find the angles. I take it as a responsibility. If someone is tuning into my show, I owe it to them to do the work to come up with the angles. I am not going to be right 100% of the time. I'm very transparent when something isn't my wheelhouse, but I will explain what I'm looking at, what I think makes sense, and then you hopefully are right more times than you're not.
So maybe it's too soon to ask this question, but I'm on the medical side. So I travel privately with athletes and take care of them behind the scenes and whatnot. I've had an NFL player and an MLB player where the teams intentionally put them on the IR, even though they're not injured. My NFL guy, he sat out a ton because he was playing a game and it was during COVID and trying to get a leg up to get a better contract the next year and stuff. How does all that come into play with the betting, either on individual guys or the team if they're not present?
Okay, so players are worth a certain amount to the point spread. Specifically, let's talk football. Quarterbacks are worth a point, 2 points. It all depends on the quarterback, the team, the matchup. But if a quarterback is out, you will see a line move pretty drastically. A left tackle, it might kind of move a quarter of a point in the book's minds, but not really. It's mostly the quarterbacks that move it as far as that is concerned. NBA, God bless, because players can just be sitting out left and right. You don't know why. And that thing can swing any direction that the wind blows. But injuries matter. And knowing if a team has a good backup matters. For example, Texas Tech football a year ago. And I guess this year because Brendan Sorsby's not going to play. But their quarterback gets hurt. All of a sudden, Morton's out. They bring in this kid, Will Hammond. No one knows who he is, but he looks good. And all of a sudden, the point spread isn't as drastic of a drop-off when you go from one quarterback to another. There's plenty of situations around the NFL where if a quarterback were to go down, I'm not sure there's a huge downgrade because the backup's pretty good. And then capitalizing on injuries is huge. During the NBA season, just happened to be watching when Nikola Jokic got hurt in his game. Before the books could take the MVP market off the board, I bet SGA to win the MVP at plus 115. It's a short number. That means $100 wins $115 back. But I saw the injury happen. It looked pretty bad. I pounced on that number. It winds up cashing because they were the two favorites in the market. Injuries play a major role here, especially in the futures market when it comes to pitchers in baseball. Pitchers in baseball are getting hurt all the time with Tommy John, whatever it may be, arm fatigue, needing to sit out weeks. Well, if you're the favorite, like Jacob Mizorowski is right now at minus 250 to win the National League Cy Young, you miss 2 weeks, boom, you're gone. Aaron Judge with his injury, he was the favorite to win the AL MVP. He's now 80 to 1, and Yordan Alvarez is the favorite, but it's kind of wide open after him. So injuries play a huge role in betting, but you have to take some risks. There's always risks in betting. There's no locks. There's no short things. You will lose money, but the goal is to be profitable over the long term. And if you can take some chances with some injuries to other guys, some of these markets could be really efficient for you.
I always find it amazing how close scores really end up being to what the line is. It's like, how did these guys predict it? Because you got crazy games where someone could just not show up and this and that. So I guess that leads to, I say, Moneyball, all analytics. Is betting all analytics, or is there a human component to it also?
Well, I think we're seeing that the analytics work over a long sample size. Baseball season analytics are meant to be correct over 162. NBA analytics meant to be good over 82. But the playoffs are a different animal. There's a human element. The New York Knicks, as Ronnie knows, just won a championship, and their greatest analytic was chemistry and teamwork and friendship. So you can place it all together and you'll be in the mix, but I think there are some human elements that take you over the top. There's certain unmeasurable things that define a champion. But in terms of betting, a lot of people rely on their algorithms. They live and die by the numbers. But I find, for me, I am not one of those people. I'm not a math person. My best betting angles come from non-X's and O's sports matchups. It's this team is traveling. They have no rest across multiple time zones. They have an early start time against a team that's at home and hasn't left their bed in the last week or so. Those are the elements that make sense. Betting in football season against a team that has a rivalry game the following week, we call it a sandwich spot. If you can pick the right ones, that is very profitable. None of these are sure things, end-all be-alls. It always works all the time. But if you can find the right spots, they make sense. And analytics, I think, work, but they need context, and you need to remember it's still human beings playing a game.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because I treated the Dodgers for 5 years. And part of the time, Joe Torre was the manager, and then obviously Dave Roberts. Two totally different personalities. And it really showed the camaraderie in the clubhouse. You know, one set, the guys are all brothers and it's fun, it's positive, and the other one's just real mellow, just kind of not much, doing your own thing.
And I think that's the manager's role. I'm a Mets fan.
Yeah.
And Carlos Mendoza was just fired.
Yeah.
Managers don't make these decisions anymore in game. It's mostly mapped out by the front office. Our numbers say that if this is the guy who's pitching, these are the best opportunities. If this guy comes out, we're going to put this guy in. We like this matchup, whatever. Carlos Mendoza, his biggest failure wasn't that the team wasn't winning. It's that they have no connectivity. There's no vibes. There's no energy. It's just a bunch of random mercenaries on a field together, and there's no cohesion. A manager's got to bring that together. That is the human element now that's added to the game that you need
Dustin,
to do that.
You guys signed Juan Soto. He's the leader in the clubhouse, is he not?
Unfortunately, I think he is the leader in the clubhouse, and I don't think he wants to be a leader.
For you.
I don't think he wants to be a leader. I don't think he knows how to lead. It's Francisco Lindor's team, and I can't believe with everything we've gone through with Francisco Lindor, Mets fans are no, that's our guy. Because you know what? In times of trouble, Francisco Lindor stood at the mic and answered questions. He stood up in adversity and said, I'm not delivering. I'm not playing well. And I don't know if we get that out of Juan Soto. I don't know if he's willing to be accountable like him.
As a Yankee fan, I don't think you will. Now, that being said, obviously, when he was with us, we went to the World Series. I have plenty of Mets fans, obviously, so, it's all good. But, yeah, I mean, again, from a betting perspective, going back to that topic, I would imagine, again, from a leadership perspective, all the stuff that in between, is that in your, kind of when we talk about analytics, is that in your business? Is that more the way you are in terms of again, looking at those type of facts versus just pure numbers? It's almost kind of
I,
the same like in a baseball, game, I would
yeah,
say.
I'm not I'm just like, I like numbers. I don't
Yeah.
live and die by them. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand some of
Sure.
these like models that people build. I don't I don't fault anyone. I'm not like
Sure.
that is definitely the sharp way to do it. It's just not for me. I've seen too many people hide behind their model, and for me, it's a competitive thing. Like I'm a
Yeah.
super competitive person, so I view it as it's me versus the book, it's me versus the number. I want to beat them here. I don't want to rely on a computer. I don't want to rely on AI. I want to do the work here and prove that I'm better than the person who's setting the number. So that's kind of it's an ego thing for me. It may not be a healthy thing for me, but that's just the way that I go about it. And I just do my research, right? I look up the basic numbers. I'm looking at the trends. I love matchup stuff in the NFL. To me, that tells the story more. I hear a lot of people say, well, this team's running for 150 yards per game. I actually don't care. I want to know what defenses are giving up 150 yards per game, because that means that's something I can exploit every single week going against that team instead of for this other team, where a lot of that stuff is matchup dependent. But the
Yes.
key to the matchup is one defense can't stop the run. I want to ride that as long as I can.
So for that though, in terms of these facts, like if let's just say the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? It's had happened before, I think, that they have 2 London games back to back, right? Obviously, it's a big time difference. So let's just say that second game, depending on the matchup, you might favor that a little bit just from a perspective of like, again, time zone,
They've been
all that
there.
stuff. Is that something that plays in?
Yeah, but here's the thing you have to keep in mind. In a very up-to-date society, the sports book has that information too. That's why
Yeah.
when you see betting trends, I love betting trends. I love knowing Kirby Smart in the month of September is an under guy. That's not a real one. I'm just making one up on the fly. Don't go bet that. But I like knowing that certain teams early in the year are an under team, or certain teams when they're 13-point favorites or greater, they cover the spread pretty consistently. But the problem is, the more that information is out there and the more that it is known, the more the people who set the numbers can start to adjust and set the proper numbers here.
It's that
So there's
half
no,
point then.
yeah,
For the spread,
there's no sure things. But in terms of your London play, on a human side, it would be, well, one, Jacksonville's used to going over there. Those players have done this a few times now if they've been
Yes.
on the team.
Yep.
And then two, they have an advantage because they already played a game in London. They've been spending the week in London, and another team just flew in for this week, and they have to get acclimated to everything around them. The Jaguars have gotten the sightseeing out of the way. They've gotten all the touristy things they want to do. This other team's excited to be there, and they're also jet lagged. That would give the Jags an advantage, but you have to be careful about the number because the sportsbook also knows the number as well.
All right. So here's the real important question for this entire podcast. I'm a Packers fan. Jordan Love. Are we going to the Super Bowl this year?
I am not a Jordan Love person, and I've been that way for a while. I think he is a slightly above average quarterback. And if you had the defense you had a year ago, I think you have a chance to be one of the best teams in the NFC and in the conversation. But I think losing Jeff Hafley was huge. And you're the medical guy. When is Micah Parsons going to play? That might be the whole season right there. And I also wouldn't discount losing Romeo Doubs.
Yeah.
It feels like whenever there was a little adversity, Jordan Love would make sure Romeo Doubs was involved in the offense a lot. Those are 3 big concerns for me. Hafley, Parsons, and Doubs. I don't know how you make up for that.
We're going to get Devontae Adams back, and then we'll lock it in.
When is that? When he's 43 or what age?
Well, here's the question. Does your head coach make it through the season?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad you brought this up, Eric.
I think he does. But I don't know. I also know from to the medical side, you're only as good and healthy as your medical team. And I know there are a lot of NFL teams with some shitty head trainers and stuff. And the NFL, you got so many guys that a ton of guys don't go to the trainers because they don't want to sit. And that's why they hire someone like me in that sense. But same with baseball. I mean, the Dodgers, Cubs, Giants, I mean, Diamondbacks, there are some amazing medical staffs out there doing the right stuff. And then, the guy with the Packers was old school. He didn't want to look at new technology. He wasn't open to stuff. And that's, his personal belief put a hinder on the players and took them away from stuff.
To that point, I think there was a lot of injuries, wasn't there, with the Packers in the past, especially on defense, if you look at the last couple of years? Not to blame anybody, I'm just asking, like, factually speaking.
Yeah. They need to hire me,
Yeah. Hey, on a side note, here's what I would say. I just want to bring this up. I once went to a guy out here in Vegas who specialized in like breaking up whatever scar tissue, I couldn't move my shoulder for years. I wasn't quite frozen shoulder, but it was a baseball injury I had when I was like literally 2003, 18 years old, 19 years old. He dug in there and made me cry.
Yep.
And my shoulder's been good for 2 years since. Like, I think there's like, to your point, there are some people who are unwilling to evolve, and you would know better than me, but we're not still in the day and age where they're just like shooting people up and telling them to go out there and play, right?
Yeah.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
But I want to say on that topic, because the amount of shit I have to hear here from Eric, because I'm a Jets fan, in regards to the head coaching situation, I mean, that was a tough loss against the division rival last year in the playoffs, right? Giving up that many points in the second half. How safe do you feel the head coach for the Packers is?
Oh, I think he's got to get to the playoffs and win a playoff game. I think LaFleur absolutely has to win a playoff game. I think there's a lot on the line for him. Because at this point of the game, they've committed to Jordan Love. And if things don't work out, they don't want to blame Jordan Love. They have to blame someone. They have to make some change here. I think LaFleur's a good coach, actually. I think he's pretty good at winning on the margins when he has the right pieces. But I do think that they're going to have to make someone the scapegoat, and unfortunately, it would be him.
Could be.
Yeah. It's good. Back to the betting side a little bit, in terms of what do you see in terms of difference between actual just recreational bettors and versus sharp bettors? What's the biggest difference that you see?
Oh, the biggest difference is volume. Sharp bettors in, I don't know, 2 weeks might have 1 or 2 bets that they really, really love that they'll bet. I mean, maybe 4 if it's a real big card with a lot of options. But the public's betting more volume. I bet more volume. I want more action. I'm in it for action. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do this. Because if you're a professional, you're trying to make a living on it, and think about the world you have to love the number. You have to love the ROI. You have to get closing line value, meaning when you bet it, it goes off at a worse number. And a lot of these guys are arbitrage betting, which means you're looking for rogue numbers. I can take a -2.5 and a +3, and it can pay out in the end that I'm in a good spot. Or it's a situation where I'm going to beat the news. I know something's happening, and I'm going to bet this at -1, knowing it's going to get up because something's going to happen. You don't know what it's going to get up to, but if it gets over a key number of 3 and it's up to 3.5, well, I'll come back the other way. I have -1 from betting it early. I'll take +3.5 the other way. That is a key number where it falls on that often, and I have a chance of winning both sides of this bet. So that's what the pros are trying to do. The public is just looking to win, and they're not thinking about the tax, the VIG, the juice, the little number, the -110, the -115, and how that over time makes it harder and harder to get your ROI and win money. If you're betting -110, I believe the number's like 54 point something %, you have to win your bets. The second it goes up to a -120, a -130, a -150, we're now talking about you got to be a 58, 59, 60% better to win. And just the odds aren't there that you're going to be able to do that in the long term. Here and there, picking your spots, I like doing that, but you can't consistently just lay the juice all the time.
All right, here's a question. College, football and basketball. How has NIL and the transfer portal changed everything from one team to another team? Because you get a player and then next season he's out with someone else and all that stuff.
I think it has raised the floor of a lot of the top teams, or a lot of the top conferences, I should say. And it's made it very difficult early in the season to get a good feel because you don't know how certain players fit with their new teams, what they're going to look like. They could be great, they could be bad, they could be in the middle. We're reaching a point where we've had a few years of this where we're starting to learn which coaches are the best at utilizing the portal and getting those guys acclimated right away. I'd also say in college basketball specifically, though, it's made it a much better product. It's way more competitive. There are so many more teams that are in the mix. Now, how many can win the title? Still probably around 3 or 4, but that's an upgrade. About 15 years ago, we were going to the season with 1 or 2 every year when it was the one and done era. We're seeing in college basketball, there are a lot of veteran teams that are mid-majors or maybe the bottom middle of a conference that are now way more competitive. And in college football, I think it's killed Cinderella to some degree, but it just changed Cinderella. Cinderella is now Indiana. Cinderella could be a Wake Forest. Cinderella could be a Texas Tech, a program in their league that maybe isn't thought of as the blue blood, but if they're willing to spend and they pick the right groceries, they can be competitive and be a playoff team at some point.
All right. Makes sense.
It makes it hard, though, year in and year out to keep up with it because you have no continuity. You have no, this player is now on a team for a 3rd year and he's going to finally start. It's, hold on, this quarterback's been on 4 different teams in 5 years. How am I supposed to evaluate him?
Yeah. So, all right. So taking a serious guy like you, are you for prop bets for the Super Bowl or against them?
I am for prop bets for everything. I love prop bets. I bet props in the NFL. The NBA is probably my best. I like baseball props. Those are markets that the sports books, they'll post numbers, but sometimes they can be slow to adjust. For the Super Bowl specifically, you better hit them early. You better get on them early because if you don't, they're good. If you're betting overs, I should say. If you're betting unders, you might be able to wait, but there's so much of a focus and a spotlight on those bets that they're going to move a ton. I like to live in the weeds. I like to bet some of the like third receivers over receptions. I like stuff like that. I like running backs catching the ball out of the backfield, receiving yards, stuff like that. I like pitchers, strikeout props, taking it up a little bit higher than the book goes to get a good payout back. That's what I like to look at here. But prop bets, if you're just trying to find ways to beat the market, prop bets are your best opportunities because specifically in the NBA for me, almost 90% of my prop bets are a player is out, who benefits? A player is out, who benefits? Because the sports books do not adjust those numbers enough. The usage rates go up. The ball in their hands goes up. Depending on the matchup, whether it's points, it's rebounds, it's assists, it's all of them, you can find some really exploitable numbers there.
All right. So let's change it a little. We had a pitcher with the Diamondbacks on who got caught for betting, and he was suspended for a year. And we were just talking to someone else, and it's you got betting everywhere. So it's every advertisement wherever you go is for betting and stuff. Do you feel pro athletes could bet on other sports, not their own sport? Are you a fan of that, or you just say across the board, no betting?
I think they should be allowed to. I think it's ridiculous that they can't actually. Now, people always come to me because I'm in betting and they're talking about all the scandals going on and they're very fearful of it. What I would point out about betting in the landscape we're in right now is that betting's always existed. When I got into it, I was betting on offshore accounts in like Costa Rica and countries that I couldn't even name, okay? And they were sending me a check in the mail 7 weeks later.
If they did.
Betting's been around. There's a reason the 1990 Black Sox scandal happened and no one caught it. There's a reason why the college basketball point shaving scandal in the late 40s, early 50s with the college in New York and New York City and a few others out there happened. There was no regulation. The one thing we have going right now in our favor is that there are government bodies that are regulating these things, that are looking at outliers and being reported when something is off and doesn't make sense, and we are catching the bad faith actors. Without those in place right now, people will be able to manipulate these markets, and I'm not sure we'd ever find out if anything was
that in
going
the
on.
UFC, right, Dustin? Wasn't that like, didn't Dana White like a couple of months ago, there was an outlier fight that they just scratched because all of a sudden the action on it was different?
I believe so. That happened. I mean, we have a big NBA one going on right now. We have Jonte Porter. We have a few others out there. It was a Malik Beasley. I'm seeing the clip of him making the rounds over the weekend. Tim Donaghy, but that was a little bit before the regulation.
Oh, the ref.
Yeah, but basically,
do you think Tani knew that his interpreter was doing it, or did he really play dumb and be like, "Look, go to jail. I'll pay you this amount after, and we're good to go"?
This is speculation. I have to believe Shohei Ohtani was involved in the wagering there, whether it was them together, whether Ipe took the fall for him. That amount of money, all that there's no way he's just a victim in this. And I also think when he gets his contract laid out the way it did, where it's all on the back end waiting, feels like you might be able to draw some conclusions there. It's all alleged. It's all speculation. I don't want to be held responsible, but it just feels like there's too much smoke for there not to be fire.
All right, everyone, you heard it first right here just now.
Oh, yeah. Hey, why do you think the NFL, I mean, obviously the amount of games, I understand the popularity of the sport, but, there's nowhere near as many games. Why is it the king of betting? It is, right? From a volume perspective.
So the NFL has stolen our lives because they've stolen the calendar, and they've stolen the week, they've stolen the month, now they've stolen the year to some degree. I mean, feels like July is the only month that we don't really hear a lot out of the NFL. They let the NBA have their little moment, and they got back up with training camp. I think it's the most digestible league, right? I think we used to have sports in a day and age where people needed entertainment. There wasn't Netflix, there wasn't Amazon Prime, there wasn't YouTube. So you come home, you put the game on, you watch TV. As there's been more and more options, the one thing that remains constant is the NFL is king. Part of that's fantasy football, but part of it's the way it's a digestible league. You know how your week is going to set up. You have Monday night football. You have Thursday night football. You have Sunday all-day football. Then you have Sunday night football. Then on the holidays, you have Thanksgiving. You have Christmas. Now they have like Black Friday. They just keep taking over the calendar, but they make it so it sets the week up perfectly. Not just for their games, the news cycle, how things come. Monday reaction, Tuesday post Monday night football. Then, Wednesday you start previewing. Thursday night football. Friday, all you're doing is thinking about what's going to come on Sunday, and then you do it again for 18 weeks in the regular season plus the playoffs. That's what they've done. They've just inserted themselves into our lives in a way that just sets up very nicely. I don't know about you guys, but football season feels like it goes way faster than the rest of the year because I always know I have something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, maybe let's switch to a little different topic, but I mean, obviously it goes into sports betting, fantasy, football, fantasy sports in general. As you know, we talked about this before. I have my own platform that I've established with Elite Legacy Leagues, right? How much do you see in terms of like bettors and, how much overlap is there between bettors and fantasy football players? And, is that something you get into as well? In terms of like predictions, because it almost feels it goes hand in hand.
If you are going to extrapolate the numbers, like you see a wide receiver is projected at 18.9 fantasy points this week. Well, part of the factors in those points is the expectation on points scored in the game, also known from sports bettors as the total, right? The total is involved. Also factored in how many receptions that player is going to get. Well, there's also player props out there that have the receptions because it's points per reception. Then there's yardage, the points. So there are all these corollaries where if you really dove into it, you could say, hold on, the sportsbook isn't very high on this, but these fantasy projectors are very high on this guy in the matchup this week. I mean, there's a lot you can do if you're willing to cross-pollinate with this, whether it's prop bets, whether it's, the games. If you're looking at all these receivers for the Bills, you're like, hold on, fantasy is predicting them all to have a bad game against the matchup against the Ravens defense, yet the total's in the 50s. Maybe that total's a little bit high. It's not the only thing you use, but it can be a marker and something you use in how you help each other out.
Yeah, both ways, right? I mean, I think you brought it to something great, right? In terms of like, the PPR part in some of these leagues, right? If you get a point per, reception. And again, if you look at the prop bets, to your point, right, you don't really care if it's over under 8 reception or 6 receptions. You're saying, wait, this guy's projected to get the ball 6 times. That might give you 6 points, right? And obviously these leagues are for money as well, right? So
yeah, and if they're low on them, then maybe you can say the sports book is overrating them, and there's an under to be placed there, right? There's always an over, there's always an under. They both cash the same. Now they're not as much fun to watch the unders play out, but they do win if you're willing to bet them and hold your nose. And actually, there's more working for you when you bet an under than an over, and I'll explain. When you bet an under, the second the game starts, you're winning. Your player doesn't have any catches, or you know what I mean? It doesn't have any yards. There's nothing there. 2, injury. 3, benching. 4, a personal issue like getting ejected or falling out of favor, not having chemistry with the quarterback, or in the NBA, not being a part of the offensive rotation and not hitting shots. Unders at the start of the game, there's way more working in your favor than overs. It's just we all look at this is a good matchup. This is a good matchup. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to bet the over.
what about live betting on unders? Especially, again, you're talking about props, right? You talk about individual players, not the under on the entire game, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No, as far as the live betting, there's 2 ways to look at it. It's I didn't have a good feel. I want to see how these teams look, and I want to take if the underdog looks bad on the first drive, and I think over the course of the game, because it's a scripted drive in football, the first drive.
Yes.
And they were maybe plus 6.5, but it goes up after a touchdown to like plus 12, 13.5, something like that. I'll wait for that better number. On the other side, you could have a favorite who they allow a touchdown on the opening drive. All of a sudden, they go from minus 6.5 to maybe minus 1.5. Well, now I can come back the other way with that, and I can play that. On Sunday night, I was doing a show. The Red Sox had a no-hitter into the 8th inning.
I know. It was against the Yankees, yeah.
Yeah, the Yankees broke it up.
Yeah.
I bet the Yankees right before they broke it up, or no, when he broke it up, at plus 670 on the money line. So I got that live in the 8th inning. Felt like an emotional letdown. Well, the Yankees then tie it up, which affords me the opportunity to now bet the Red Sox at minus 130, minus 150.
So you hedged your bet, okay.
So I can't lose on this game now. It's plus 670, which I'd prefer to win, but I took a chunk of those potential winnings when the Yankees tied it up and bet the Red Sox at a price where I'm winning back more than I originally bet. Yes. Live betting, but it doesn't always work out that way. You're going to miss. You got to be willing to shoot and miss.
Especially with spreads on the runs, right, and stuff. Like it could
absolutely
go away from you. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
What are some of your craziest either wins or losses, either you personally or people you know?
Okay, I'm trying to pull this one up. I think I have it saved somewhere. It was 2020. We're in the pandemic. I had a 3-leg parlay
on cornhole
on college football money lines. The last leg was Georgia Southern on the money line. I think they were like 3 or 4 to 1 to win. So they were big underdogs. They scored a crazy touchdown where the quarterback just kind of threw it up in the air in the end zone with like, I don't know, 5-10 seconds left. And they caught it and they were up by 2. I think the kicker missed the PAT to go up 3, I want to say. I don't remember. Either way, they were only up 2. They kick it off to the other team. It goes out of bounds. There's like 8 seconds left. The other team runs a play. They get on the other side of the 50. And I think this would have been like one of those like $20 wins like $3,000 bets. I watched a kicker from like a Sunbelt school drain, I want to say, a 48, 49-yard field goal because the dummy kicker kicked it out of bounds. Then they let up a play over the middle, and this kid kicked it after I thought I was about to hit this awesome monster parlay.
I know another guy that was part of that bet. Yeah. I remember that game exactly. I know exactly what game you're talking about. It's what we do on Saturdays.
Yeah. You remember the bad losses. The good wins you kind of remember, but the bad losses you remember more than anything.
Oh, no question about it. Well, since we're talking about football here, I would like to kind of get some projections here from you in terms of college as well as maybe you start with the NFL here. From an NFC perspective, what do you think the top 5 teams might be?
Yeah, so as far as the NFC is concerned, the Rams, you can't poke holes. They added a stud corner, a legit number 2, and then the best defensive player in football, Myles Garrett.
Well, I mean, the other defensive end that they have on that line with Byron Young is also very strong.
Absolutely. So they are rightfully your favorite to win the Super Bowl, let alone just winning the NFC here. I'm not as high on the Seahawks repeating. I think you're asking a lot out of Sam Darnold.
Yep.
They would not be in my top 5. I would not put Philly in my top 5, but if you go back and look, Nick Sirianni and his track record, he is an every other year guy. When something goes wrong, the next year he makes the adjustments. It's just, I was pretty underwhelmed with the offensive coordinator hire. And Jalen Hurts, while his completion percentage may look good, he's not an accurate quarterback. So you need to scheme him up properly, and I felt they didn't scheme him up well last year.
I was going to ask about the Birds because my girlfriend's a humongous Birds fan, and the two of us are always doing this.
Yeah, I think they can win the division. I picked them to win the division, but I might be walking that one back because I do think some of the other teams have gotten a lot better in the East. And I would look at
in the East if it's not the Eagles. You're going Cowboys?
Dallas or the Giants. I think the Giants are being very slow. I think the Giants might make the playoffs.
What about the Skins? Do you think they have any chance in that division?
I think they have a very good chance, especially if they add Brandon Ayuk. I'm fascinated to see how that plays out. They addressed their defense heavily, which was a big issue. They also brought in a non-gimmicky offensive coordinator as well. So they're going to let Jaden Daniels be a pro. I love the opportunity for that. I think the Niners bounce back big. I think the Lions have a very favorable schedule. We'll see how it looks another year after Ben Johnson. So I go the Rams. I would go with the Niners, the Lions. I need 2 more for you. I don't want to say Philly because I just crapped on them, but it'd be Philly or Dallas in the next spot for me in the NFC.
Okay.
And then, man, the NFC is not that impressive. I might have to go with your Packers.
Oh, Packers? 5th?
You know what? The Vikings intrigue me.
Come on.
The Buccaneers
Kyler Murray in that situation could do well.
Well, Kyler Murray, when he's not taking up a huge cap hit, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can fill out the rest of the roster around him. I can make him look good. And if Kevin O'Connell believes in him, I believe in him.
Easy.
But yeah, there's not a safe number 5 for me in the NFC.
Yeah, O'Connell actually, he went to San Diego State. He went down here, and the only snap that, as far as I remember, he ever took in the NFL was with the Jets. So
that sounds right. Sounds right.
Yeah, but AFC, what do you think, Dustin?
Okay, I'm very high on the Texans. Now, I don't think they're the number 1 seed or anything.
I mean, that defense is insane, isn't it?
Yeah. I think the Bengals have a real opportunity here.
Oh, wow.
I think when you look at the additions on the D-line, Lawrence and Allen, they're going to get a push that they haven't gotten before, but I think Zach Taylor's on the hot seat, and they notoriously get off to slow starts. Taylor has to know it's put up or shut up time. The window with Burrow is closing. He's amped up. They can score with everyone. I think they're going to get off to a hot start this year because they have to. If not, they're going to have a new head coach.
You're saying, 5-1, 6-2 kind of stuff.
Is something like that. They can't start 0-4 again. They just can't do that. So I really love Houston and Cincinnati. I think Kansas City is due for a huge bounce back here. I love Baltimore, but they have a first-year head coach. It's not like coaching up Lamar's that easy. And then Buffalo, it's Josh Allen. I don't really love the team. Like I'm not really blown away.
Well, let's stay on that real quick. Who has a chance to win the AFC East?
Well, it's going to be the Bills. My hot take is that Mike Vrabel doesn't make the season. I think that an element that people are not bringing to light enough. Mike Vrabel is not an X's and O's guy. You know what he is? He is a leader of men.
Yeah.
How can you be a leader of men? And we now know that you were giving privileged information in the locker room of those men that you are leading to a reporter that you had a relationship with. And now we know how she was getting all of her information, all of these leaks. And if he's doing that with her, he's probably telling other people as well. I understand we live in this day and age where newsbreakers have these rats around the league, but Mike Vrabel's a rat. Anyone can be the rat. An assistant GM can be the rat, right? But it can't be the coach. It can't be the leader of the locker room. I'm not so sure those guys want to follow him for this entire year if they face a little bit of adversity.
Oh, you say so because I mean, I think he had a pretty good hold on the. I mean, obviously they went to the Super Bowl and all that stuff, but that was last year. You're saying if things go exactly the way for the first 5 games, there might be a little bit of a break.
Yeah, maybe not 5, but towards the end, if it's really an S show, and they're talented, but guys, they had like historically an easy schedule a year ago.
Oh,
historically
you're not
easy.
Telling me I'm a Jets fan. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
Got to give them credit. They made it right, but I mean,
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. All right. Since you didn't answer that yet, where do you see the Jets? What record?
Oh man, what's the win total? Let me pull that up here real quick. I know
I
it's
think
low.
it's below 5. I think
It is. The Jets are 5.5. The over's -120, which means the market thinks that they could be an over team. Look, you have a professional quarterback now.
Yeah.
I think that matters for the Jets. Geno Smith and Aaron Glenn has to prove it. This isn't a tanking year. This isn't like last year where you can just lose games because you want a good draft pick. No. You have to win if you're the Jets. As far as the schedule is concerned, I haven't looked at their schedule. Let me look at this real quick. I'm pulling it up here because that makes or break it. At Tennessee to open the season against your former head coach. Fascinating. Here's the problem. Early on, you have a lot of road games. At Tennessee, then home versus Green Bay, at Detroit, at Chicago, versus Cleveland, at New England, and then it's Miami and Vegas at home. I think they can beat Miami at least once, if not twice. I think they can beat Cleveland. That's 2 wins. I think they can beat Tennessee. They should beat Arizona. Vegas is 50-50. On the road, you know what? I think they go under the 5.5. I hate to say this.
You think so?
Yeah. And I thought they made some decent moves this year, but I don't know. I don't know if I see it. They've got weapons. I think the O-line should be a little bit better. I don't know if Bailey makes an impact.
I had enough with you guys. We're done here.
I think it's the under, but you know what it is? I think they're going to be a team that covers the point spread consistently.
Oh, so I can still bet him. Okay, got it.
Yeah, you can still bet on it.
Yeah. I need to have fun with this stuff. So no, that's good. Any particular dark horse nobody's talking about that you're thinking, hey, or even from a player's breakout too?
Yeah.
Like,
okay, my favorite MVP bet right now is Brock Purdy, 22-1. And I'm not a Purdy guy at all, but you have to factor in he's coming back to the same offense for what, the 4th, 5th year, something like that. They added Mike Evans. Go look at the track record of Mike Evans his first year on quarterbacks coming off whatever seasons. Although Purdy was when he was healthy, had a good season last year. Yes. Evans made Mayfield a starter again, took an old Tom Brady to the Super Bowl. He helped Johnny Manziel win a Heisman at A&M. Mike Evans is a different cat. He knows the Shanahan system, plenty of weapons. He's super efficient. I think he's still getting better. I love Brock Purdy as a long shot MVP.
Would you, from a fantasy football perspective, and maybe that's wrong, would you try to stack it? So if you go Evans at 1 round to get Purdy later on?
You know what? I'm weird. I'm an anti-stack person because I've just been wrong so many times that I don't want to go all in and then be completely wrong about one team.
Yeah. Everybody's always like, oh, that's the one that the pros do and that, because as much as the upside is up there as well, the downside is there too.
Yeah.
So,
if you had the Niners last year, you got screwed. Everyone got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, do you have a walk of 10 for Dustin here? We normally end with that.
All right.
It's just basically a sequence of questions, yes or no answers, and then or just one word answer.
I don't have to turn my head and cough, right, Eric? I don't have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. True or false? You secretly judge people by the bets they place.
True.
One word, biggest emotion during a major game.
Fear.
Okay. So scared shitless.
Yeah.
True or false? You've accidentally cheered for a team because of betting trends, not loyalty.
Oh, I think I cheer more for my bets than I do my loyalty.
Okay. One word, luck or skill?
Lil in the middle.
Okay. True or false? You can predict who will lose just by looking at their betting slip.
I'm going to say false.
Okay. One word, craziest sport people actually bet on.
Hot dog eating contest.
Okay, hold on. I got a different one. I was flipping ESPN a couple of weeks ago, and I saw a bubble blowing championship contest.
What? Like, you don't even. Are people like hiding gum in their mouth to try to add a little bit more? Like,
No, like they had a whole thing. You couldn't wear glasses. You
That's
couldn't
right
have a
there.
hat on. It was entertaining, and the commentation was the best. Oh, he's packing his mouth. A big one's coming now. Oh, she blew it. It went all over her face.
Wow.
It was pretty funny. All right, one word. Most dangerous bettor, the beginner or the expert?
The beginner, because anytime I've started betting something like World Cup, I think I'm 7-2 in the World Cup. I know nothing about soccer.
Okay. True or false? Your family asks you for betting tips more than they should.
False. They know better.
All right. And if your betting platform had a personality, what would it be?
Oh. The guys on Jersey Shore fist pumping.
Well, there you go.
All right. Hey, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Hey, I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, boys. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. That was completely different discussion. Again, normally we're a bit more serious in terms of like, journey and athletes itself. Here it's just, again, for pure entertainment. That's awesome. So thank you very much, Dustin.
Good. We'll do it again.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
Thank you.